All right, wonderful. Welcome, everybody. All right, first of all, I'm going to ask, does anyone arrive with a question that they want to ask now? In which case we will address it. Otherwise, we have some questions that people sent in that we can start off with. So raise your hand now if you have a question you want to go ahead with right now.
I'll go ahead.
Yes.
You know what I have a question on is number one, I number one, I really appreciate our yoga community. This is awesome. And the teachers and Michelle, and I don't know what I'd do without you. It's so much love and support. So number one, thank you. Number two is the thing that I'm interested in is like, I know we talk about it, but the anatomy, like if there's some specific things, just, I know going through the poses that we do, there's a specific anatomy piece, but is there other things that we should know about just in our mind or in our practice? Um,
I'm
that's,
going to give you a very short answer, which
yeah.
is how I deal with it. I think it's quite interesting anatomy, and it's not, and no knowledge is a problem. However, we're not really practicing with the anatomy, we're practicing with the actual body. So we don't really know well how it's defined. We need to explore how it works. That's my basic premise, how I deal with myself. But it's not uninteresting at the same time. But I'm going to throw it over to Matt.
Yeah, on a similar vein, I have a fairly simple answer, which is there are trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of living creatures all over the planet, big and small, and not one of them has ever read an anatomy book. As far as I know.
It's pretty
So
simple.
yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good question because sometimes Bikram Yoga is people say, well, I want to learn more, but the learning you're seeking in the room is a different kind of learning. It's not an informational learning which goes into your neocortex. It's an experiential learning of connecting to your body and literally understanding how it works for real. And there's no substitute for that. Sometimes studying can point you in the direction or expose an area which makes you curious, but it can't be a substitute. Even if you had 6 degrees in anatomy, if you never actually sat and moved your body and reflected upon what was happening, you would have learned nothing, even if you had 6 degrees in anatomy. So
we
that's my
we
simple
have
answer.
now we've had others, doctors, in some cases very illustrious doctors who actually can't move their bodies and they can't make the mind make the posture. Now maybe there's doctors that can, I'm not saying they're all like that, but it's just interesting that we know one who's very highly educated in anatomy, and only just now is that person making the connection between how to move the body parts, so
Okay. And the reason too where I say it is because it's more of a spiritual connection with yourself, right? But as you're looking at, say, going to get, going to do traditional medicine and get your blood work done and kind of take care of this vehicle that we call the body, I'm doing less and less of that because I do Bikram yoga and I do the practice and mostly self heal, when I can, when
So
it's
yeah, I think what's interesting here is I totally am chiming in with Matt and Sarah, what you're saying, where we can get lost sometimes, I think. But what caused you to ask that question? Like
just,
what is there something more maybe that we can address that got you to ask it that way?
just from going to traditional medicine to more of a holistic, self-healing.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how if I can articulate it, but
Was there an area of your body that
yes, yeah.
bothered you a little bit that you want to understand? You know what I mean? I'm just kind of
yeah. It's my stomach area.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, but anyway, I was just more curious.
I'll tell you, just to add to the stomach stuff, as a child, you guys, I had all kinds of stomach problems. I was actually in the hospital. I couldn't find anything wrong. And, now I look back on it and I just have a weaker system. But I tell you, the thing that has helped the most, and I was going to gastroenterologists in Stanford. I mean, wasn't, it acted up. It acted up when I was 7. I used to regurgitate my food all the time, and then it acted up a little bit more so in high school. And then when my mom died,
Yes.
and then gratefully I found yoga. But, one of the wind removing pose, and I remember, I share the story sometimes in class because I went to Bikram's seminar in San Francisco. I forget what year it was. And it was 2 days, and it was supposed to go. Do you guys know the story? I've said it many times. He was supposed to go from like 9 until 6 each day. And it was the first day, and we were on wind removing pose, and it was already like 6 o'clock. And I remember saying to myself, oh, this will be short because it's, wind removing. He won't have a lot to talk about. We didn't end until 9. He talked so much about wind removing. So I share that with you, Jody, because I think wind removing, in all the postures really, but, wind removing is specific to the colon. Just it's over time. It's over time that you start to, and I feel like my whole system has mellowed out, has calmed down, has kind of, whatever inflammation may have been there. Maybe it took a while. I don't really know. I never, really studied to see. There was never really anything clinically wrong. Right. But I think Bikram yoga, over time. Yeah. Because remember, Bikram yoga is holistic, you guys. It gets at the whole body to help whatever it is that specific thing is. It doesn't just go right to that one thing. It goes into the it's a holistic approach. It's everything. I don't know if that helps you or not, Jody, but, I think it's just one of those things too. If there's flare-ups and what, you just keep it consistent,
I do think that sometimes just as a side thing, actually having a visual impression of what's in there is quite useful. I mean, the one that I like because I actually emphasize it in Janusharasana. There's the line, this posture is, again, marriage between thyroid gland and pituitary gland. Now, what don't people want to do if it's difficult? To tuck their chin and push their foot on their knee. But the pituitary gland, the thyroid gland, it's just kind of, it makes me excited when I do it because I can feel the chemicals going. I like it. Since I know I like it. So it can, if it adds to the exploration of what you're dealing with or what you're interested in learning, I don't see the problem of investigating it a bit from that perspective. We do actually have a nice app which we could send you, and you can go around visually and look what's in there and pull bits out, sort of exposed. So we'll send you that after if you like. And,
I can send it to you as well, Jude. The one thing I would say there is a hazard, there is a risk associated with studying anatomy, and the risk, and it's one of the wonderful values of Bikram yoga. The way we teach it is to give you simple instructions on how to move your body in simple ways that under the covers inside you is very complex.
Yes.
But if I say try and touch the mirror and you try to touch the mirror, like 100 different things are going to happen inside you. But if I told you each of the 100 things and tried to educate you on each of them one by one, you would almost certainly do it wrong. And so people who go to gyms where they try to train the contractions of individual isolated muscles, and they have reasons, often visually for bodybuilding and stuff like that, they can run into all kinds of body problems because they're overriding the natural sense of how to move your body. Whereas Bikram yoga, we're always encouraging the natural sense of how to move the body. And half the trouble for modern humans is that modern humans don't move naturally and don't sit naturally. And so we have to work through that and overcome that so that we can all reconnect to the very simple, natural movements of our body. So that's why I think anatomy can be useful if it inspires you, but not as a substitute for practicing.
Thank you.
Really good question.
Yeah.
So well
I think we've never had any question like that before.
I know it is a good one. I was thinking too, you guys, right? Bikram is famous for the tourniquet effects, right? Circulation twice the normal speed to return to the normal position again. So I rely on that a lot. I love that because I can feel, like you were saying, Sarah, before, you get this exciting feeling that some good health is going on. Right? You may not completely understand it, as Matt is saying, and that's okay. You don't have to. But, just the fact that you've got twice the circulation in that certain area that you worked is probably taking care of things, that that you don't necessarily know or need to know about, but it's bringing you back into perfect alignment in that natural balance that, Matt was talking about, moving ourselves in that natural range of motion, even on a glandular level, right? Like secreting hormones exactly the right way. So, that is a really good question. I don't know if we've been asked that before. It's good.
Thank you.
Could I just show, like, there's books like this, The Anatomy of Hatha Yoga.
Yeah.
Completely very, very detailed. So I bought it thinking, oh, I'm going to learn so much from this book. But like you were saying, it's really just the practice. I found myself getting really bored trying to get into the detail of books like this.
It's on my shelf, collecting dust.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah, collecting dust.
We all have that, collecting dust.
Yeah, better to just practice.
You can use it to do some posture with, maybe, if you're having difficulty.
No, what just came to me is this: all I need to know is how I feel.
That is it. That's absolutely it.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, and that's more profound than perhaps it's even you even know. It's exactly it. How do you feel? Exactly.
Yeah.
And how do you shift towards feeling good always?
So.
Yeah, just so you know, the app that Sarah was talking about, which is, here's a picture of it, it gives you a 3-dimensional model. It's called Essential Anatomy 5. It's really aimed at doctors and practitioners who do care about such things, but you can actually layer on the lymphatic system, the vascular system, the ligaments, the muscles at different layers of complexity, so that it also helps you, zoom in and isolate. So like if this is really sore and you're trying to think, what's under here? What are the muscles that are under this part of the body? But so it can be useful as a little tool, and there's a free level of access and more if you have medical reasons.
It's also, I say a lot. I quote Bikram in saying that your body's a Ferrari. You just don't know how to drive it. But when you look at that, this engineering it outclasses Ferraris by it's incredible. Just to look at it, even if you don't look at any of the names or anything, just to look at this engineering is extraordinary. It's like what we live in, how we can use it. That's I find that inspiring. Looking in there. So All right, Matt has a question that was written
so we have a question that was written in from Lara Kari. I hope I'm saying that right. And it was a question about third part awkward. It's a little bit long, but I'll read it quickly. I had a student today who took a class with Rajashree recently. Going into the third part of the posture awkward, he mentioned that it was okay to allow the knees to come apart. When the student shared, I think he meant she, not he. He's talking about Rajashree. It was okay for the knees to come apart. When the student shared this with me after class, it caught my attention because I hadn't heard that guidance before and I wanted to better understand it. Is this used as a way to accommodate knee pain, or is it better to simply not go down as far? If this is appropriate to let the knees come apart in certain situations, is there guidance around how far apart is considered safe? I'm also curious about the exit of the posture. Would you then advise the knees to come back together as the student comes out? I know that when Rajashree offers guidance, it may be very specific to the individual. My broader goal is to better support students with different needs in my own classes while ensuring they are practicing safely in a way that allows them to keep coming back to house today. So that's the question. Unfortunately, Rajashree's not with us today. She's often in this Q&A. She's not here today. She's got other engagements.
Would you like to start it?
Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, obviously, Rajashree's not here, so she would have had a specific reason for saying it. When the knees are together in that posture, you have more stability in both of the hips. If you watch somebody who has instability in their knees or their hips, it's usually on one side predominantly versus the other side, and you'll see it if they don't squeeze their knees together. Their hips tend to twist as they come down in third part of awkward, and so the squeezing of the knees together helps to give them more stability to be able to do that as they build the strength and range of motion. So I think, I'm always going to generally advise people to do that, and obviously it's in the dialogue itself. I can't personally think of a reason why I would say to a student that it's okay for them not to come together. But also at the same time, I've taught students that especially students with bigger thighs, where they were finding it very difficult to bring the knees together, but the act of trying to bring them together, even though they didn't actually touch, was sufficient to give them the stability to be able to do the posture. And so, from my perspective as a teacher, they were trying the right way, and that was fantastic, and they were getting the results. In terms of the coming all the way down piece, I always advise people to try to come all the way down, even if at the last few 6 inches or so they end up sort of dropping down, because as you keep practicing that range of motion, you strengthen all of the different parts of the motion. If you only come halfway down, you're only practicing coming halfway down. You're not practicing the other 50% of coming all the way down. So it's better to try it and collapse, and then the second day you try a little bit more. It's just like working through toe stand, where at first it's really, really hard to keep strength in the knee and come sit down on the heel, and you tend to collapse into the heel, and then 1, 2, 5 years later you've got lots of strength and control. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, it's a really good question. I was thinking that she may well have said it to one individual. For example, there have been individuals where you say, I've heard Jim Callett say, and I've done it, or just put your hands on the floor, because they don't know how to come down at all.
Yeah.
One of them, once he put his hands on the floor once, was unable to do it for the rest of his life. He still practices with us. I've said things like that as well, like the different posture, but very briefly, standing with leg to knee, which I teach really religiously. Try to do it the right way, exactly the right way. Stretch, tuck your chin, come down, make knees lock, and don't change their hands. I've said to one guy, put your hands on the floor and come down. And if somebody asked, well, is that how you should, is that okay then? Well, no, it's not at all. But it was for one individual. So I'm inclined, like Matt, to think it was for an individual. Yeah. But without Rajashree here, we can't actually read her mind. What do you think, Michelle?
Can I, I find this question fascinating now, because Matt and Sarah, you know this, you guys, 7 weeks ago on Monday, I did the hardest fall I've ever had in my life. We had a rainy day. I wore boots that were not my normal boots, that had no tread. I fell once on my bum. I thought I was able to get up and get traction. I didn't, and I fell forward and fell flat on the very edge of my kneecap. And I really hurt my knee really bad. In fact, I was on my way to Matt's class. I still went to class, and what hurt me the most, what I felt the most, was third part of awkward. So what's funny is I'm going down in awkward posture, and this is actually even a few weeks later, and you guys, right now my knee is fine. So I'm sharing this with you because I do agree it's specific, but I have seen where, Bikram has said, when you're going down, like you said, Sarah, I got down there with my knees open, and then I put my knees back together. Do you know what I mean, you guys? Because I felt extra tension on the edge of my knee. There was no tear, but there was extra tension. So I was able to go down in third part of awkward, but then I could feel it, going to a level that probably wasn't wise, but I got myself down there with my knees open, and then I was able to put my arms up and my knees together. And the more I squeezed my knees and used my inner thighs and kept my stomach in, I could tell that my knee was healing. Yes. You've been doing this practice for a long time, right? And so when I came back up, I focused on my knees together, but also focused on my stomach in and using my inner thighs. And I could feel that I was gaining strength in the knee again as I came back up. Yeah. So I've had to do that a couple of times. I didn't consciously open my knees up and go down. I actually got down, like you guys are saying. I went down to the extent that I could. And when I found that little message in my brain, this is too much, then I put my hands on the floor and got down there and knees together. And now I'm fine. So I didn't overdo it and underdo it. But I do think it's amazing that somebody like Rajashree knows that for somebody. I would not have known that had I not had that fall myself.
Well, alternatively, in 2018, I did something to my left knee, which I have no idea what it was because I didn't go and see anyone about it, but it got very large and I couldn't do certain things like fixed firm, which I can always do like really easily. I couldn't do properly.
Yeah.
I took the opposite because the only way I could come down was to squeeze my knees like literally on my and thighs and stomach in, like my life depended on it. And I thought that doing that actually healed me.
Yeah.
I squeezed it. I squeezed it, and I did it, and I came very slow, like we're supposed to come slow, and I really squeezed.
Yeah.
And I felt every time it benefited. And it might be that these, I sometimes say that to people who've got knee issues, and so they tell me it does benefit them, but if they really do it. So but all of these things are, it's interesting to have a repertoire and know when to use them.
Yeah.
If there is a,
right.
I mean, aside from stabilizing the knees, aside from stabilizing the knees, if your knees are shaky, particularly as a beginner, it's also engaging a lot of the stabilizing hip muscles and glute muscles. So if you're weak, it's a way to gain connection to those muscles. If you're relatively fit, like we've been doing this practice for many years, or most of the people on this call, we could probably come down with the knees apart and have no issues whatsoever. Because you build up enough capability, enough connection, enough strength in your body. But as a beginner, it's generally, keeping the knees together is helping you by stabilizing the knee, but also helping you get connected to your hip muscles and your pelvis as well.
I think the thing that's interesting too is with you, Sarah, your example and mine, and maybe in Rajashree's case with this individual, but I'm just speaking for myself. There was no fear in my head.
No.
There was only healing in my head.
Yeah. Yes.
So, you know what I mean? There's a big difference there.
Yes, mine was it was like, oh, okay, I can't do this, so what am I going to do about it? And I really only had my knowledge of how to teach to do, so I did more.
And in my case, for a moment, I let myself get to the floor and then come up and
exactly.
But in both cases, it's healing. It's not a condition for somebody to do all the time.
Absolutely.
So that's why I think
exactly.
Was giving her yoga therapy insight to that individual. Because I agree with you, Matt. I think you guys' third part of awkward is it. I think that Bikram loves that for the knees. I think he loves that for the hips. I think it's it's a hella hard posture, and I think it's so important that
hips muscles tight like rocks. That's a good one. All right, anybody live? Of course, if you have things to contribute to questions, also when you hear them, if you have things to contribute, jump in. Anyone live would like to do that, or has another question? Yes.
I have a question. So we were speaking with Diane Ducharme recently. And she said something that I had not heard before about 80-20 breathing. She said that with 80-20 breathing, you take one breath and you go all the way into the posture. We were talking specifically about Purna Salavasana.
Yeah.
But I know that I use that breathing technique for other postures as well. But the way she said that the way Craig was teaching it was wrong, that you're only supposed to take one breath and then let a little bit of air out, let a little bit of air out, let a little bit of air out, and then come out of the posture. And I'm like,
we're at the end when we say
exhale, breathing, come
up one more time. See, that's the rest of the air.
Right. But see, that kind of I had always understood 80-20 breathing as a breathing technique that would allow me to stay in the postures, and not hold my breath. But now
very interesting question. I actually understood for a very long time the same what you just said, Gray. So I'm taking it to myself. What you just said, Diane said, is my understanding of it. And then I heard Bikram say on an old recording, the 80-20 breathing is normal breathing in Hatha Yoga. So it is take a deep breath and keep breathing a bit, as it were, but not hold the breath. Yes? Yeah.
Well, the way she described it, there was no more inhaling. It was only exhaling. You take one deep breath, exhale a little.
Oh, I see.
Exhale a little, come out.
Yes, interesting.
That just seems
like holding the breath.
Kind of holding your breath because you're not.
I think maybe it's a little bit too much analysis. It is taking a deep breath and then allowing and then using 20% of the lungs.
Yeah, there are some styles of yoga that have taught that as a technique, but usually as part of a vinyasa flow, not Bikram. So I've heard it in the context of a vinyasa flow, like doing Surya Namaskar, that you take, each phase of movement is a single breath. But those are postures, that's a movement oriented practice of the posture. So you're not in any step of any phase of it for very long, versus us where you could be in 10, 20, 30 seconds or longer in a posture. So my understanding of the breathing for Bikram yoga of 80-20 breathing is exactly what you described, Greg.
Which one?
The same that you know, so 80-20 inhale breathing would be fill your lungs to 100%, in and out to 180, you know, just and vice versa on an exhale breathing, empty the lungs and just a small inhale, small exhale, and more. But effectively breathing, not holding your breath.
Yeah, because I think I would personally find it very challenging over the course of a whole Dhanurasana to not inhale again. You know, it's a very challenging posture.
Yeah. Well, I think it's also that, like Sarah said, you know, Bikram always teams this up with breathing normal.
Yeah. Right.
And not holding your breath. The moment you hold your breath, your nervous system is going to do funky things.
Right. Yeah.
I ask her that again. I find that odd. I never, ever in my whole experience have ever heard Bikram say anything to allude that you're holding your breath. Ever. Never. Not in any book.
Not even hold the breathing.
Not ever. So that's interesting. Maybe ask Diane about that. Now, I do remember Jason Wynn. He did an example class on, because it's cobra, locust, full locust, bow, that you hear a lot of the 80-20 breathing, right? To use that. And I remember we did an experiment because he was saying that the 80-20 really helps you maintain your strength in the posture, but not to hold your breathing, just take a little bit out. So what he was doing is we're in cobra pose and he was having us exhale most of the air out and still trying to hold cobra pose. And we all had no gas. There was
absolutely.
Right.
I used to actually,
So that was, you know, teaching us what 80-20 was giving you, right? Is having strength to hold in the pose, but not holding your breath.
I can confirm that it's awful because I did it for years without realizing, and I could stay in the posture, but it was dreadful. It was there is one line that I just thought of. I'm just checking it in the dialogue where the things are paired, and this is in standing separate leg, head to knee pose. Exhale, breathing, suck your stomach in, throat choked, eyes open, breathing normal, right? So you do it, and then you're still breathing. But you're not letting the stomach in and out. You know, you exhale, stomach in, and then the breathing. Okay.
And I think the exhale breathing, particularly like in Purnasalavasana, exhale breathing, come up one more time, but also in other places in the postures is often overlooked. Is that, as you're right, that exhaling and holding exhale breathing really works your core muscles enormously. You have to hold everything together if you're going to exhale and still maintain your stature, your posture. That requires a lot of internal strength, and so it's very good for strengthening around the spine. So it's not an accident that it's in our sequence at all.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, it's a good one because we don't often talk about 80-20, right?
It's a good one to explore more. These are really good questions.
Yeah.
I haven't done the research on. I wanted to go back and look through. We have, some of Bikram's books. I wanted to go there.
Yeah, I would do that. The blue book especially will be helpful. Christy.
So my understanding of 80-20 was that, like, especially in full bow, like, it's really hard to breathe in that. So you're going to take a big breath at the start, and then you're just going to breathe off the top of your lungs. You're not holding your breath, but because in that posture, it's difficult to really take a full breath and continue to kick and pull and kick and pull, that you were just breathing out of the top 20% of your lungs. But maybe is that completely wrong, what I've understood?
Well, it's 20% air in and out, isn't it? But it is the same thing. It's like take a deep breath, which is the instruction there, I think. Take a deep breath, and then don't hold your breath. Whether it's difficult or not, I suspect might be, it's difficult for beginners.
Yeah.
It becomes not difficult, but it's the same technique.
It's more. I think it's more about when it's inhale breathing versus exhale breathing is more related to what's happening in the structure of your body, and in your nervous system. So different postures at different phases of the posture lend themselves to that. So take a deep breath, like I'm going to do something, and then exhale. Now I hold it. So that kind of sensation that you galvanize the body on an inhale and holding structure. Exhale lets you deepen the interior strength So that's why it's often used on forward compressions, head to knee is always exhale breathing, because you're holding in your structure together.
Or inhale breathing, full lungs, hold the breathing would be the archetypical for you doing a stretch, right? Yeah. So it's really, you're stretching up. Yeah. Exhale relaxes you a little bit, inhale tensifies you a little bit. They have all kinds of roles. It's actually something worth understanding more about, right? Like researching a little bit.
Right, but kind of like anatomy, right? I mean,
yes. Like, you don't need to obsess about it, but it's
the blue book is, what I mean by normal breathing is don't think about it.
Exactly.
Right. So
have you ever heard of 80-20 breathing being useful in Half Moon Pose side bends? I had a teacher who said this, mentioned in the side bend to use 80-20 breathing.
Well, you're basically doing, typically any time in our dialogue where it says inhale breathing, you're talking about 80-20 full. And anywhere where it says exhale breathing, you're talking 80-20 empty. I mean, it's the two extremes of the lungs. So that it's buried in the instructions, in the instruction of inhale breathing and exhale breathing. It's just that in the class you don't break it down and explain that to people.
Yes.
They tend to pick it up.
I mean, for me, half moon just seems like normal breathing in and out. Maybe not real deep because I am stretching really intensely.
Did you inhale when you were told? And
inhale full lungs, hold the breathing, and then just sort of
really
in and out.
That's what he said. Like I said, going back, it's a very simple comment, and whether it's useful or not, I don't know. It was useful to me. 80-20 breathing is normal breathing in Hatha Yoga. He said this in 1978. So it's like, yes, you're doing it, I think.
But it's more apparent. The distinction is more apparent as you go deeper into the posture. So like in Half Moon, if you are truly trying to touch the ceiling, and you push your hips to one side and bend over to the other side, if you truly are trying to maximize your extent in Half Moon, you'll find that your body will just naturally go closer and closer to a true 80-20 breathing, because it's a natural way for the body to breathe when it's under that kind of tension. It's the same with the forward compression, head to knee. You'll find that the deeper you try to get into it, the more the body naturally goes to that place of 80-20 breathing as its natural way of dealing with what it's the challenge.
Right, in like rabbit pose.
So if you're not really feeling it, it's probably because you have still got a certain amount of depth to explore and an effort to maximize to really get into it.
When I was in Thailand in 23, one of the lectures, it was probably one of the latter weeks, maybe the 8th week, Rajashree gave a lecture while we were doing class. And you guys can hear this too. And I know if she was here, she'd say this. Maybe you've experienced this too. The moment you stop breathing, you're not doing the stretch. You're not doing the yoga anymore.
Very good. Yes.
So she had 3 phases, and I'm sorry I don't remember it, but she had 3 phases that she called each part of the posture. But each part of the posture, you had breathing going on, but you needed to know, gosh darn it, I'm sorry I don't know the right term, but it was pretty, I remember taking notes on it, because what she was getting you to do is kind of move to that point where you're holding asana breathing normal, there. And any further than that is not giving you any therapeutic benefit. It was kind of masterful. It was 3 words. If I find it next time we meet, I can
please do
dig it up again. But because it's Hatha Yoga. Hold your asana in stillness, breathing always normal.
Yeah, I can't remember the words that are used, but I can remember my own paraphrasing in my head, which is essentially prepare, enter, and hold. Like the breathing of preparation versus the breathing as you enter into the maximum expression versus when you're in the maximum expression. But they had in the yoga literature, they have terms that they use, but I'm not familiar with particular terms.
Yeah, I think you're right, Matt. It is that term, and she had some other They weren't, rocket science words, but they were a little bit different. But I'm sure they had that meaning. But and so it was a good point to know, like, where's that threshold you go, Michael, right? And if doing it the right way, but staying with your breathing normal. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, I'm thinking of a place we could play with it, because I think it's naturally you have to do it. If you play with inhale breathing, take balancing stick, do the breathing when you're given it, and then stay in the posture and notice what you do, because
Yeah.
You're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Sarah.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, I'm thinking in my head too, like, because I don't think about it. I'm just doing the pose, right? So yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Anybody, any more questions? We have a couple of other written in, but we are open to you guys first. Yes, Michael.
I have one. I wrote you this. It's about in the Half Moon backbend and the Cobra Camel backbend. Sometimes teachers will mention lifting the chest up. And I know it's not in the dialogue to lift the chest up. And for me personally, focusing on hips forward and dropping the upper body back seems to be what really works. And I did read a comment that saying to lift the chest up can get people to come out of a posture early. So I'm just wondering what you thought about that, and maybe for someone more advanced, lifting the chest up is a good additional cue. But for me, it didn't seem to be useful. So what do you think?
Question. Thank you for asking. I'm going to start, right, because I was going to get the elephant out of the room and say that in Camel, there is one reference to chest up, but it's coming out of the posture.
Right.
So to come out,
but I mean,
hands on your hips, chest up, spine straight, push more forward. So it is there, there. I'll also say that I understand that Bikram said, he used to, don't say chest up, but he actually said he would take away the certificate of someone who said it in Camel.
Oh, okay. Well, I know some people who have to have their certificate taken away.
Yes. I have myself one time given a competitor that correction in a very specific moment, only for her. I'm going to hand it over. Michelle, you start. You go now. That's I've given a bit of background.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind, unfortunately, with this for me is how we add things in and we get in the weeds right away, right? That's the first thing that I hear, because this is not the first very what you think is wise to add or not do or blah, 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 and what you're really doing is kind of introducing, like I said, weeds, when you really can need to study, okay, what is it that we are doing? And I always go back to, if it's not in the dialogue, no, you don't say it. Bikram is a hell of a lot smarter than any of us, right, in putting this together. So I'm going to trust that if he wanted it in there, he would have had it in there. My only big thing, other than we can talk about what's obvious about it, and Matt and Sarah and talk a little bit more, but honestly, in all my years of teaching, I don't see where it's necessary. Except for maybe some exceptions that maybe you saw, Sarah.
It's literally once.
But I don't, if we're saying the dialogue correctly in the backbend.
Oh, the backbend, never in the backbend. This was one time in Camel.
Yeah. And I hear you. Chest up is a wise comment when you're coming out.
No, that's in the dialogue. Chest up.
Right, I hear you. Yeah, but to put it anywhere, I don't think. I think you're adding things and not doing, you're band-aiding something that's wrong here.
Yes.
You know what I mean? That's, to become, study what's happening in the dialogue itself. And then the more you understand it, the better your delivery. We talk about this all the time in our teacher meeting. Then the better the students are comprehending. Remember, they're out of the neocortex, right? It's your voice, their body. And so they're starting to put the pieces together. You don't need to add these things. And I'm looking at, again, you add stuff and now you're starting to really dilute, what's there.
I can only think that a beginner who can't say that. Let's talk about half moon backbend for a second.
Yeah.
Beginner who has no idea how to do half moon backbend. They have no idea. The arms are forward. They're flopping back from the lower spine. The knees are bent. All the rest of it. Telling them chest up. If they actually listen to you, they're going to do something very funny. This is not going to be therapeutic in any way. They're going to do some funny movement with their torso, which never. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I can see where it does create an impulse to come out of the posture, actually.
Really?
Yeah, it felt that way to me. I think even though, most of us, we practice a lot, so we know we're not coming out of the posture if somebody says chest up. But we're talking to the body. We're in our body in the practice. And if we're hearing that, it just, when I hear it, I feel this impulse to perhaps come out too early. It just doesn't,
Sure,
it just didn't seem to make sense to me.
So therefore,
when I heard it.
Probably coming forward a little bit.
But I guess I was curious though, like with someone who is very flexible, say in camel, if they're so flexible that their hips are really coming forward beyond the knees, then I thought, well, maybe in a situation like that.
No, that's not the fix.
Yeah. So that's a different scenario, which can come back to in a second. But the problem with chest up is that you're turning it into an anatomy game. So then the person who tries to do the chest up will disengage other parts of their spine, destabilizing their lower body to try to lift their chest up. It literally is just about the worst thing you can do. The back bend is an extension which requires everything from your heels through your legs, your hips, just your pelvis, all the way through the spine, up through the shoulder blades into the arms, the whole thing stretching. So the instruction of stomach, legs, hips, everything pushed forward as you stretch your arms back and try to touch the wall behind you is the very dynamic that you want to create the extension and the bending of the spine at the same time. Because to bend the spine without extension is hazardous. This is why injuries are most common with flexible people in yoga, because they go for depth over form. They bend when they should stretch, and then they do it in a localized way, trying to get more depth. And so then they isolate parts of their spine, which they overwork, and they underwork other parts of their spine. And it ends up as a horrible hot mess, versus just trying to, extend and push the hips forward, which is exactly like you do in Half Moon. You're extending, you're trying to touch the ceiling, and then you're pushing your hips to the side. So it's exactly what you just did in the left and right, just now done front to back.
Those are warm-ups for the back bend.
Yeah.
Inhale, breathing, full lungs, drop your head back. Try to see the floor behind you. Arms back immediately. Try to touch the wall, not the floor behind you. Right? Right? Push your upper body back. Try to fall down backwards. Maximum body weight on the heels.
Yeah. The thing you mentioned about camel with the hips coming forward of the knees is because the person, and it tends not to be a stiff person, it tends to be a very flexible person that will do that. It's because they're not using their thigh muscles. Then when they engage their hip muscles, it's more natural to engage your hip and thigh muscles. So when you push, like if you try to do a pelvic thrust, you'll feel not just your butt muscles tighten, but you'll feel your thigh muscles tighten because they work together. And they do that in a standing back bend, and they should be doing it in camel. And for the person who's very flexible, they think they've gone deeper by pushing the hips way beyond their knees, but they aren't. What they're doing is actually, they're not doing a back bend, they're doing a back crunch, where you look at their spine and one part of their spine is bending a lot and most of the rest of the spine isn't really bending at all. And that's not a healthy back bend. That's an unhealthy back bend. Again, the spine should be an extension as you push the hips forward, and the thigh muscles working with the hip muscles are the thing that give you the foundation to be able to do that in both standing and in camel.
Yeah, a lot of times, Michael, what I look at when somebody's doing that, and I used to do it actually.
Me too.
Yeah,
Me too.
I feel like, and maybe you guys can look at this too, if you don't have the right grip, a full hands palms grip, think about that, a full hands palms grip. Please don't lose the grip. Then that grip is going to keep them stable to push and use their strength, like Matt is saying. A lot of times they loosen, the grip is a little bit looser, right? Or it's a little bit, higher up on the heel. It's a full hands, palms grip. Please don't lose the grip. In bold, right? Is in bold in the dialogue, right? Take a deep breath, stomach, legs, hips. It's everything push forward, right, Sarah?
Yes,
Everything.
Yes, everything.
So
Underlined in bold.
Yes.
Literally underlined in bold.
Yeah.
Everything.
There you go. There
Yes.
you go.
So, and that, you see, that addresses it. If someone's they've set up correctly and they push everything forward and underlined in bold without collapsing, that addresses all of that stuff. But it's a natural, then they make a natural response. I'm really intrigued by the fact you came out, because at some level, physically, you knew that this was not an appropriate thing to do. Yes. Yeah. So you naturally came out when you had the wrong instruction. I find that very, very interesting.
Yeah.
There was an instinct.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't actually come out, but I felt the instinct too, which surprised me. Yeah.
There is a contrasting correction that I very, very rarely hear. It's sometimes used in other styles of yoga in Camel, which is push your chest forward. But that is really in the same language as Bikram, pushing everything. It's just the teacher mentioning one of the things that you should be pushing. Yeah. But pushing your chest extends the spine. Yeah. Lifting the chest disengages the lumbar. Yeah. So they're two quite different instructions, even though they might seem very similar on a page.
And if you think of that, but if you marry that with what Michelle said, you've got the very good grip and you push everything forward. Ultimately, as you get stronger and more comfortable in the posture with it mentally, you everything will be extended as well, Yeah.
And if you think about it, it's exactly the mirror of Rabbit. In Rabbit, one of the primary instructions to go deeper is to lift your hips up more. And so that's the hips going backwards, effectively,
right?
Versus in Camel, the hips going forwards. But it is the mirror of the two, that you're really engaging these big, powerful primary parts of the body to work the whole spine, rather than giving them isolated instructions that have them nuance one piece of the spine, possibly at the cost of some other part of the spine.
I know Michelle is very hot on grips, quite rightly, and I haven't shared this with anyone before. So a little story, a student came to me. She could not do Locust at all. She couldn't approach it. She said it was very unpleasant. She didn't know what to do. So we were on outside the room, and the only thing I noticed to change it all at the setup looked fine was that one hand was slightly twisted. Not the arms were straight. It was done correctly. It was like she'd been in the right place, chin forward, legs where they were supposed to be. One hand was slightly twisted. So I said, well, untwist that hand, and she did all three parts, no problem. So I was like, that sounds like such a silly thing. But if the grip is really important, because it conditions how the rest of the body worked. I was like, I didn't even know it would work, but it was it. It was the grip.
Yeah, I know, right? The grips are use the leverage on your spine strength. Yeah, good question. But yeah, as a teacher too, Michael, right? You just understand, that.
All right, anyone would like another question?
Posture.
You can have two.
I have another question, but if anybody wants to go before me, go for it.
You go, because you said you would.
So one thing that just popped back into my mind is, Matt, is what you had said about when I was asking about the anatomy is, and I'm not quite sure how to pose this question, but it's not really a question. It's just something that I'd like to clarify is that when we're doing the Bikram Yoga, it's a natural exercise, is what you said. I think it's a natural way to strengthen the body and stretch, work the body from the inside out. And then we talked about the other ways that people work out these days, cardiovascular, weight training, HIIT training, all of that. And, I just kind of got that in my brain that Bikram Yoga is a more natural way that we really don't need to do any of those other kinds of workouts. Is that what I'm hearing? It's like,
pretty much. Exactly. It's like, there's a phrase in the gym world of the difference between gym power and real world power. So if you've got a farmer who's used to lifting 400-pound bales and throwing them around in the yard and so on, their 400 pounds of lifting power would absolutely tear apart the person who goes to the gym and lifts 400 pounds of weights every day, because the farmer has a natural power that arises from natural activity that is a blend of lots of different parts of his body involved in the process of handling that kind of power. So it's natural. Versus where you go to a gym, you do tend to do focused, targeted exercises that are trying to, by design, are trying to target very, very specific muscles, often to make them look bigger or be bigger or get just more points on the scale of I can, bench press X amount of pounds of weight and so on. And it's okay because it's a mechanism for measuring, as long as you don't lose sight of the harmony of making sure that your regime is well balanced, which is why if you do that stuff, you really should have a good trainer with you helping you to make sure your regime is balanced. But in Bikram Yoga, that's all we're doing. We're just naturally learning how to use the body. Stretching is a very muscular activity. So you build strength when you're stretching. It's not about gaining flexibility. Flexibility is just the increase in mobility that comes when you work the body properly and healthily. So yeah, absolutely.
What a good aha moment, Jerry.
And so some people say they don't get strength out of Bikram, and sometimes students say, well, I went to do weight training because I felt like I wasn't really getting enough muscles or whatever from Bikram. And I say to them, come back and try a class and do it 100%, try 100% and don't give up, and then come back and tell me if you need to go to the gym, because literally when you pull, when you're pulling against yourself, you can do muscle training of your biceps and triceps by doing something as simple as this, a clasp, a grip, and pulling. And this is really hard because you're pulling against yourself. And so there's no limit to how much you can pull beyond the point where you just get to the point where you might injure yourself. And so this intensity in Bikram is a tool if you wish to deepen the strengthening aspects of the yoga beyond anything else. And it's right there in the natural practice. So, one day if you're feeling a little weak, just work extra hard. And the next day you might be sore, but the day afterwards you'll feel more powerful.
It's a little bit it can come out of a bit of a conundrum, but if you just hold it, because you already got there, I'm just going to read what Bikram says. This is in the dialogue which given for Savasana. Practicing yoga asanas is the only natural, bold and underlined, physical activity in the world because it is scientific. With the help of science, we can explain nature. So you're realigning yourself with your natural body functions.
Yeah, I remember, Jason, we used to say too, like all the postures are strength wrapped in flexibility.
Oh, that's
yes,
lovely.
Exactly. Yes, it's a beautiful phrase.
I used to say that. And Matt, your example, one of the things that really hit me over the head, Jody, when I had my revelations, which I still have, is anytime I'm in a pose, I'm constantly searching for my equal and opposite force. And anytime I find that, I'm so happy because now that I've got the equal and opposite force, I can use my strength. And in so doing, right, I gain that flexibility. Right? What is going one way and what is going the other way? Equal and opposite. Right? Like standing bow. We say it even. Equal and opposite. Right? You use the straight. You got to make sure your standing leg, not only is the heel going down, but the leg is kicking up. Not only are you going forward, but you're going back. Right? So equal and opposite, using that strength. And, that's where you get, the muscular stuff that is natural, right?
What is that line that's on the CDs with when you run, when you jump, when you swim, you're not, I can't remember the whole line.
I can. It got edited out of our stuff.
it got abbreviated on the CDs to make it family friendly.
Well, didn't he? I mean, this one's not as bad. Didn't he always say too, like it's you're pissing in the wind?
Oh yes.
That's on the CD.
I know that's not very nice. He said other ones that were worse. What do you say?
If anyone else, they can ask wants to know. They can ask me privately if they don't know.
But it goes back to the question about anatomy and the question about breathing. They're all connected. That in Bikram Yoga, he's deliberately saying, rather than teach you theories about how to breathe or how to move or how to get strength, I'm just going to teach you the yoga, and you practice the yoga, and the yoga will teach you how to use your body. And so, but the yoga will teach you from the place of simply the truth of how your body works, not any academic's theory about it, which may or may not be in the right ballpark, but the absolute, God-given truth of what's going on inside you. And that's why I think you can trust it, that you just recognize that any understanding you have is just a point in time, and each time you practice, that point is going to move as you deepen and broaden your understanding of you.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah, that was like a light bulb. I mean,
Nice.
I mean, that is my foundation, Bikram Yoga, right? And I just know from that, the poke and prod, I mean, just because I worked my ass off.
Sure did, girl.
Yes.
And I mean, the little tidbits that Matt and Michelle that you gave me changed my whole practice. I can't wait for the other one, but I'm just
April 25th. Mark the calendar.
Yeah, I already did.
Okay.
And actually, Jodie, there's 6 of them now this year. We added more.
Yeah, we do a whole bunch of them.
We'll tell you guys what that is in a second. Sorry, I don't want you to feel left out, but go ahead, Jodie.
Yeah. So, I mean, and because I like sports, and I like, like just by watching, the Olympics were just, what you have to do to be at that level, and just that 3 minutes that you get with whatever you're doing is you've got to know your body, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I feel like this is the foundation. I don't know what other practices are out there, but it's kind of in that realm of your body knowing, doing it naturally and having that skill to do it naturally.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Wonderful thing.
Sarah, Matt, do you want to explain what poke and prod is, just so people know? You want to share?
You go ahead. It was your idea.
Yeah. Just
it was a good one.
I'm sorry we don't have it. It's not a live stream thing, unfortunately, you guys. It's an in studio thing. You're welcome to come. Our next one is April the 25th. But what it is, it's a format of a regular class. We just make it 2 hours, only because we just leave a little bit of space. Sarah's actually teaching the class, I should say. So it's regular full dialogue, and Matt and I are walking around the room, and we're literally doing a poke and a prod. So there's a little bit like, if your elbow needs to kind of go this way, right, we'll do that, right? If your spine is not exactly straight, if your hip needs to go more forward, or, poke and prod just enough where you get it in your body, right? Like, you hear it all the time, but you get it in your body, right? That there's a little shift that needs to happen in order to make your posture maybe just a little bit more accurate. That way you can have a little bit more intensity. And we did our first one 2 hours because Sarah's given the dialogue, but it does help, right, to maybe say just a skosh slower, kind of, if we need to stop and say something, we will. But don't think that we're holding triangle for 5 minutes. That's not, some people were scared about that. That's not what we're doing. But it's used, we've done a lot of clinics where we talk a lot in the workshops, which have been a very high value too. And we thought, wow, why don't we just do the opposite now, where there's less talking, and now we just kind of, poke and prod a little bit so that you can get it in your body. So if you're ever in the area, come to those. Our next one is on the 25th. But yeah, it was highly successful. We loved it. So that's why we're.
No, it was interesting what the students noticed was that how they felt afterwards. They expected to lose energy and be very tired. People were either ecstatic like you, I think, that was one response, and others were like, "Oh, I've got so much energy now." It's like, so it took 3 of us, as far as I was concerned, what I was observing with the students and how it felt teaching it. It took 3 of us to teach like Bikram does with one person. So,
yeah.
So maybe we qualify as 1/3.
Yeah, 1/3 Bikram. Jill or Gray?
What time is that happening? Gray and I am going to try to come down.
Oh,
Noon.
yeah.
Noon.
Oh, good. Noon?
Noon, yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, the 25th at noon.
12 to 2.
Yeah,
12 till 2. That's it.
You just cancel your regular class, or
no?
We don't normally have a noon class on the weekend.
Oh, so it's added. Okay, and it's open to everybody, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a drop-in rate. So it's a
Oh, how
drop-in rate for
fun.
everybody. Yeah.
Okay, good. Love it.
Michaela, you can come all the way from Ireland. Join us.
I'd love
that'd be fun.
to. I'd love to. I've seen that. On your page, and I thought it was such a great idea. I absolutely love it.
Yeah, take it, you guys. If you're
Yeah.
timid, I mean, we can talk to you more about it. But you guys chill, learn it, and because it's the students love it, right? I mean, obviously, Jody, you're saying so, but Jody's not the only one, and everybody left glowing. And again, they're
It's a very good idea.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, so an example there of one of the things I did for one of the students was in deep breathing, in pranayama deep breathing. I simply put my hand behind their shoulders, so when they exhaled, they hit my hand, and I didn't move my hand. I wasn't pushing them. I was just creating a boundary so they felt that they were actually backbending. And of course, I was telling them, no, don't backbend, relax your shoulders and stretch your elbows forward. Or Sarah was giving them the full dialogue. And so that, that making them present to something in the moment of the posture was very impactful. People really, as Michelle said, light bulbs went off, and it was kind of cool. It was a fun teaching exercise as well.
I did this once in Minnesota with Rajashree and Emmy, and that was very exciting because we didn't know what was going to happen. And Rajashree was teaching, and she's like, by the way, Emmy will be walking around. We were all like, ah! You don't want Emmy.
You've done
it. So fun. She comes up,
ninja.
touch it, right behind you, touch it.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. It's, very cool.
Very cool.
I feel very blessed that I got to have that experience.
Yes.
That's
when I first started Bikram, which was in 1995 at Mary Jarvis's studio. And then later on, I went to the one in Burlingame. I forgot her name. And then I've been with Michelle for, I don't know, 20 years or something. I don't know. But at any rate, the teachers used to go around and help you. Right. And then that went away.
Well, depending on when they were trained. Very, I've met very early teachers that he did give instructions how to give hands-on adjustments. They weren't necessarily poke and prod. He was trying to teach what he knew to do, and evidently people didn't do it very well. So that was completely, the whole business of it was just taken away. And both he and we are trained. He teaches in the podium. We teach from the podium. We don't come down and touch you. But these are either verbal or light. You were there, verbal or light cues, how to correlate with what the dialogue is, and then you can.
It's not like a hands-on adjustment. So some of the early teachers were taught hands-on adjustments, but the danger of that is if you do it incorrectly, you could be overriding the natural use of that person's body, which could then lead to problems. Going back to the conversation earlier about natural movement, and so that's why we typically don't do that kind of thing.
You guys, please be mature enough to know. I mean, we don't have to do these, right? It's all about the delivery on the podium. I'm on Bikram to hear a rumor that BYSJ is walking around correcting people, touching them here and there.
And these are in their nature of workshops. Really, they're not. They're expert. They're not the class.
I was just curious. I like that went away. So
yes.
It wasn't for very long.
But that went away deliberately. In fact, I know from it. Didn't even want to do a class, I mean, the classic thing I think came a lot from Rajashree and Jim Callett, right? To explore class again and developing a dialogue so that you didn't have to, and Bikram doesn't even like, privates. He wants you to, in the famous story about Madonna, he wants you in the room, with everybody else, and you figure it out yourself. Right, which I love, right? So
there is also that constant exposure to it, isn't it? Which, after all this time and all the progress I know you've made, the constant exposure to the same thing over and over, doing it yourself, not having it done for you in any way, is very powerful.
Yeah,
you're unearthing what you're capable of.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Jill,
I just have one quick thing because I think I know the right answer, but I was actually taking a video recording from a teacher from your studio, and during Locust, she said, if you can't get your elbows underneath, just put your hands or whatever underneath. And I just disagree with that. I feel like, the dialogue says palms flat, arms straight.
I agree.
Yes,
I
I feel
disagree with
like
it
if
too.
you're not, if you can't get your elbows under, you shouldn't put
Yeah.
your hands, because then you got this kind of thing going.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
myself.
you're
That's
absolutely
right,
Jill.
right?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, absolutely right,
Yeah.
Jill. Arms
So
straight.
Yes.
that didn't
Yeah,
make
the
sense.
arms should be straight. And
Yeah.
trying to get the elbows underneath the body and just putting your hands under there with bent elbows will do nothing
It
useful.
does nothing. So I tell people to stay outside, but I tell them to make sure the inside of their elbow's flat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even
Whether it's
tell them.
underneath-
I don't honestly tell them to stay outside anymore. I tell them to get their arms underneath their body.
I know,
and
right?
try to get them
They-
straight. If there's somebody, I mean, I
Once
say
you
get
tell
them
them to
straight.
do that, they're
Then
stuck there.
they struggle and do it, right?
Yeah.
It's
No, thanks for sharing that. We'll make
Yeah,
sure.
Sarah, thank you.
Yes.
I like that.
Yeah, why
Send me, a
that,
note, send me a note privately
Mm.
about that. You know, I'd like to follow up on that, but privately. That'd be good.
Sure, of course, of course.
Yeah.
when would it ever be good to have your arms outside your body? It puzzles me that a lot of people don't try.
I think
Is it really a
me-
danger?
I've heard people teach it a lot, and I used to. I mean, I've been exposed to it a lot, and I used to teach it myself. And then I used to think, why not just tell them to get their arms underneath their body and see what they do? If they don't, let them see what they do. You know, it's like even they've got whatever it is, condition, very big breasts or overweight or hurting. They can't. They've got already impaired. Then let them try to get their arms underneath their body straight position. If I'm watching carefully and I can see when they're doing their best, then this is sufficient. Yes, it's that's my way of approaching it.
Yeah.
To
It's like
me, it just
danger.
seems like the first part of the posture. That's the essential beginning of that posture, is to get your arms underneath your body.
Yes,
to work on your elbows.
There was one guy who had surgery from he was coming back. It wasn't as sensitive, but it was carpal tunnel syndrome. Right. So I'm trying to remember, Michael, too. I know the dialogue is a dialogue. You're right. But I remember he was bending his elbows trying to compensate. And I'm like, no, arms need to be straight. And so we kind of worked I'm like, okay, bring them out a little bit more. Okay, out a little bit more. Okay, you can straighten them out a little bit more until they were straight. Right. And that was his beginning point. Bikram doesn't want you to modify, but unravel. Right. There's no bent elbows. Your arms need to be straight.
It's also, it's also misses the point of the posture. The arms are straight because the arms connect to the shoulders, and when the arms are strong, the shoulders are strong, and now you have a foundation for the rest of your spine. But it's also,
he didn't have fear, and he trusted the process. He knew his beginning point, and then he knew that, okay, over time, when I'm not in pain, I can bring him in a little bit closer. Do you see what I mean? Like there's a process in how you do it. Because you don't want to give we'll just put your hands here. Do you know what I mean? No. Like give him information so that you don't have to, he doesn't need to hear from me anymore.
Yes. And also, I mean, you obviously knew what you were doing when you did that, but somebody else hearing you might think, they might think, oh, you shouldn't be in pain. But of course, Bikram will quite often say in a variety of things, oh, your back's going to hurt like hell or whatever. So I think, Michael was asking, why would somebody teach it that way? And I think they teach it that way incorrectly because they're trying to make the student comfortable, and it's not comfortable isn't where the benefit is.
Yeah, it doesn't help anybody.
It's comfortable to lift a 5-pound weight or no weight at all, but you won't get strong doing that. So
I'm also inclined to think that if someone's got that much compromise with their arms, you're doing one step at a time. You let them struggle with that, but don't allow them to have the arms all the way out and then try to do the rest of the posture. Let them struggle with the arms. That's their work, right? To get them straight.
I mean, the body fundamentally, if you put it under stress, under a sensible amount of stress, trying to do one thing specifically, it will get healthier and it will get stronger at doing that. It's like the sort of 101 of our existence at a genetic level. So if we back away from that point, we diminish the clarity that we're giving the body of what it is we want to have happen. And so then things don't heal and you don't get stronger because you're always backing off from the point where all the benefit would arise. Or you get impatient and you give up.
Yeah, I think it's amazing the responsibility we have as teachers. So I'm kind of speaking from that point of view because you can't dismiss it. Right. You got to, where is this person going to go where they're feeling a pain sensation that's tolerable, a little bit more discomfort for their level. Yeah. And at the same time, too, you don't want to be an enabler either. Right. No. So, so again, saying the dialogue, but, it also too, you have to say it in such a way too, where they feel empowered.
Yes.
Right. They don't feel a liability and, oh, I can't do this and I'm blah, 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 blah. Right. That you keep them in their meditation. They're still empowered like everybody else. And maybe their range of motion isn't as deep. That's okay.
So that's really what we've talked about this a lot in teacher meetings. If you don't try to make it like, well, you don't add thing, you say try when Bikram says it in the dialogue, you don't say it otherwise. Get your arms underneath your body, arm straight position, get your arms underneath your body. Well, then they try it. If you watch them, see how they're doing. Are they trying to do the right way with 100% attention? They didn't succeed. Fantastic. They'll do it again tomorrow. Doing something different. This is going off in the weeds again, but we don't want to encourage them to do something in the weeds. Somebody might surprise themselves. Somebody might come in thinking, I can't get my arms underneath the body, and then they do.
Right. That's not us to know, right?
No.
We just say it in there.
Someone might be really struggling. Still let them struggle to get them under the body. Even if they end up outside. If they it's a night and day difference to say, leave your arms out here, or let them struggle with it, and they end up outside because that's literally the best they can do that day. It's completely different.
And inspired to come tomorrow.
Yes.
Right? Yeah.
So I think, Jill, you know how we feel about that now.
That
was a kind of what I'm saying.
I feel the same way. And I'm so glad you said that, Sarah, because that's really what I want to do. And when I have my own studio, I will be consistent about that. I think it's just last resort. Like when people have tried and I've like elbows invisible and they can't do it, I go, okay, I just want them to have a way to win. But I agree with you, and get them. And I've been teaching in places where it's not necessarily encouraged to come back. So when I have my own studio, I'll be like, this will be fixed. Just keep coming back. So thank you. I'm going to do that too now. I'm going to adopt that. I'm not going to give them that out.
Yeah.
Any more questions? We've got one here. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about the half tortoise. I have a question about the actual the forehead touching the floor. I'm wondering what your views are on the sequence of actions. When the command is there, touch your forehead on the floor. The next line is little fingers touching the floor. So where I practice for 16 years, we are actually, even this morning in the class, the teachers, really all of them, they actively encourage the students to touch the forehead to the floor first, before you touch your little fingers. So, and recently in actually Terry Almquist group, I learned the opposite. I actually learned that the little fingers should be touching the floors. When the forehead touches, the little fingers are already there, because we're trying to use our abdominal muscles instead of the back. So I was wondering what your views are on that. Yeah.
Well, just the dialogue, for example, it says the dialogue literally, as you just said, touch your forehead to the floor, little fingers touching the floor. Yes?
Yeah.
So it's a process. So that's the dialogue. I teach the dialogue exactly as it says, Half Tortoise. I practice it exactly the sequence. I have done that. I played with it and I can do it. And I don't see the point. I just do it. Diane Duchamp, when we were there, said, if you're very good at this, it might be they come at the same time.
Okay.
Yes, it might be. It wasn't like try to do it. It was like, it might be they come at the same time. And I think that's where mine is probably. And that I'm going to hand it over to Matt and then Michelle for the rest of, because I've got very strong opinions about this, so I'm going to shut up. Okay.
I think if you try to touch your forehead to the floor before you touch your hands, that's predicated on a certain range of motion, which implies that you can get your arms far enough back that you're able to get your head to touch the floor before your hands touch the floor. So it's already something that's immediately going to exclude a whole bunch of people in the room. But if you actually try to do it earnestly and feel what happens in your body, you realize that you're doing all the wrong things. Your hips should always be touching the heels. That's one piece of the setup. Hips always touching the heels throughout the posture. And then it's like, stomach in, exhale, breathing, and you go down, arms and head together. So that's the simple instruction. You come down. The rest of it is like what happens when you get down. So your head touching the floor, the fingertips touching the floor, the elbows locked. If you try to do all of that, you'll realize that your hips are active, your shoulder blades are active, shoulder blades coming out of the body as you stretch the arms more forward, and it feels quite natural. And you'll feel that your inner shoulders are quite naturally relaxed, and your forehead is touching the floor in a state of relaxed neck, inner shoulder area. If you try to touch your head to the floor before you put your hands to the feet, you're going to do this. You're going to tighten the trapezius, you're going to tighten the rhomboids, you're going to tighten your neck, and you're going to literally do what the posture's the opposite of what the posture is about, which is about releasing that tension and increasing blood flow into the brain. So yeah, I know people do it, but it's honestly, I think it's driven by people who are more flexible, thinking that that's a more advanced way to do the posture. So I think it's driven by a misunderstanding, perhaps combined with personal ego. And I don't mean in a gross way, but just in the natural sense.
No, you're right.
We all have ego. You know, we all think, "Oh, I'm doing this better now than I was."
Right. If I get my forehead first.
But it's not the posture. The posture is hips on the heels, forehead touching the floor, fingertips touching the floor, scapular shoulder blades coming out of the body. So if all those four, and of course, trying to have all four of those things happen at the same time is tough. So for some people, depending on the size of their belly, the size of their breast, the size of their thighs, the stiffness of their spine, they may or may not get their head onto the floor. They may, depending on the flexibility of their knees, they may or may not be able to get their hips onto their heels. But the hips seeking the heels, the head seeking the floor, and the elbows locked so the scapula can move out of the body to create that release here is why it's so precious. So in physical therapy, a variation of half tortoise, at least in terms of the arms and shoulder, is done quite often for tension area in the neck and the inner shoulder areas, where you lock the elbows and stretch the arm, scapula, shoulder blade out of the body up a wall or something like that. But we get it for free in half tortoise. So yeah, I think the details are relevant, but I think it's one of those things where people are micromanaging their understanding of the posture and then building theories about it, which again, sort of bypass the natural order of how the body moves. That would be my take on it.
I had that happen today, Michaela. It's funny because some days I can like face plant, you know, and then get my hands down. And other days I'm just like, neither one of them are hitting the floor. You know, not my chin, not my hands, nothing's. And today I couldn't get my forehead down before my hands, so I just kind of just relaxed, and I don't know what I did. I just kind of stretched. But yeah, some days it's crazy. Some days it's totally different, and I've heard it both ways when I'm in classes, like hands down first, forehead down.
No, the dialogue says what I said. It said the dialogue says touch your forehead on the floor, little fingers touching the floor. But it doesn't imply you must put the forehead first with the hands sticking in the air and then put them. Little fingers touching the floor. The only thing I've heard Bikram say, which was extra recently, was interesting, but it's not in the dialogue, but I heard him say it in this old recording. When you come up, try to keep your hips on the heels, but that's covered by the dialogue, right? Throughout the posture, hips touching the heels. So that's a valid one. Michelle.
Yeah, you know, all these things, but it's funny, right? You guys, the teachers that know this, I mean, how many of us as trainees were kind of obsessed with this and asking Bikram what's more important, getting your foot on the floor, your baby fingers on the floor, and then he would say and answer it in a question, what's more important, your brother, your sister, your mother, your father?
Who do you love?
Do you guys remember hearing
that? I used to say it all the time. Who do you love the most, your mother or your father? And
Right.
People just couldn't connect with that because we're different how we think about that here. I really actually have a favorite.
I know. That made it even worse, right? But you know, I think that when I look at this now, I think Bikram is saying you're focusing on the wrong thing. I mean, don't focus on it. So, and I've done it, Michaela, too. I've done it where, you know, okay, no, my forehead needs to be first. But, you know, the point of the posture, again, you guys, right, is the delivery and the setup, right? Heels touching your hips throughout the posture, right? And remember, there's that phrase in there that says chin up, right? Making sure that you suck your stomach in, exhale, breathing, and go down. You know, and that forward on the floor, little baby fingers on the floor. It's not meant to be an obsessive thing, but if you can do it, great. If not, that's not the point. You know, the point is to get down there, and what are you supposed to do? Stretch your arms forward. How many times do we guys see you guys practitioners with their palms not together nice and tight? right? That should really be the focus, right? Is your palms need to be, because that, like Matt is saying, that's what's affecting your neck and shoulders to help your latissimus dorsi, everything open up, right? Palms together, they should be nice and tight. Stretch your arms forward towards should make sure your shoulders hurt, scapula, shoulder blade coming out of the body, right? All again, you know, the delivery, get out of the focus on, you know, I've done it. I know where sometimes our mind goes to, like, you know, what we think the posture should look like appropriately, but we're dismissing the entire process of the pose and what it's trying to give us. So it's neither one of those in my mind, Michaela. It's neither one of those, Christy. I mean, it's just, you know, get the setup the right way, right? Exhale, you go down, right?
Yeah.
You know, and spine is going to do what it does.
Exactly. I was just checking. There's literally no, I said this to a class the other day, but I just checked in the whole thing. There's literally no instruction about your spine in Half Tortoise. The spine goes with the actions that you're taking.
Yeah. Yeah, right. And leaving your hips on your heels throughout the posture, that's such a big phrase. How many times do we see people when they go down, when they come up, they do this dip thing?
Yes. It's a challenging one, but it was interesting he said that. But effectively, it's not like an extra thing. He's just reminding you. He already said throughout hips on the heels throughout the posture. Yes, hips touching the heels throughout the posture, start to finish. When you're sitting and you come down, when you come up, you know.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so that's a really good focus to have. Yeah, I felt it really deep today. You know, some days you feel it deeper than others, that you can have your heels touching throughout the posture, you know. But that would be the focus, right, too. So I don't know if that answers you, Michaela. I don't know if it matters either one, but I think the focus needs to move away from that. And what is the priority of the posture, right?
Okay.
You know.
Thank you.
I've also experienced some teachers fixating on the forehead touching to the point of lifting the hips up. And it seems like they're confusing. It seems like they're confusing the line about how high-speed blood, you know, comes into your brain. So they think that it's about creating an inversion.
I agree.
And I just, you know, I've heard that. I've seen that actually quite a bit.
Yeah, no,
we've
seen it, and many students insist on it. We actually had a line from Michelle gave me some notes kindly years ago that she'd taken at Bikram's seminars, and it's in there that he said stretching heart muscles by the shoulder blade, scapula, stretching the heart muscles, which is the action that brings the blood flow to the brain, not getting the head below the heart, especially in bizarre ways. It's stretching the heart muscles that does it.
Again, you know, if you think about the instructions, hips always touching the heels, stretch your arms up in the air, you inhale breathing, come down, exhale breathing, come down. So he's already asked you to keep your hips down and stretch your arms up. He's already asked you to put your body in full extension and come down into the posture and get on with it. Stretch more forward, hips touching the heels, chin away from the chest, stretch more forward, stretch, and so on and so on. So the moment you do something like, oh no, it's not about any of that at all. It's about your head touch the floor, lift your hips up in the air if you have to. You've just lost all of the tension in your torso. And now this is something else, but and it might be relaxing to somebody, but it's not the posture. It's something else at that point.
Yeah.
It's
I
combination.
think time again, it's just the thing I notice again and again with this is that I have to keep going back to the dialogue and say, you know, there is sense in those words, but maybe I didn't each time I go back, I understand a little bit more behind those words that maybe wasn't clear to me before.
I always say the dialogue, it is a digression, but very simply saying that Michelle's class today, you know, you have to pull in wind moving, you have to pull down a little extra hard. People don't like to say it because they're like, he told you to freeze. I always say it, all right? But today in your class, I actually, especially on the right side, I truly did it. And it was just delightful. You know? And I was doing a bit, but I truly did it. I had a lot of room. I had a lot of room and I really did it. And it was just that bit extra. I was frozen. But then they just pull down a little extra hard. Yes. It was really good.
Yeah.
So, and I really got that in the body today, even though I always say it.
See, but that's a good point because what you're saying, Sarah, is all the teacher is saying is the dialogue, and the student from the dialogue saying it the right way is moving into that deeper meditation where you want them to go, not fixated on these other things that get us in the neocortex.
Exactly.
The head versus the baby fingers.
Yes.
Right? That's so fascinating about doing this and studying it and delivering it the right way, is because the student's body, mind, soul, whatever, is on a journey that is, slipping out of the normal noise that we live in. And if we move into like something like that comment or whatever comment, then we're doing a disservice, and they move right back into a spin class. Do you know what I mean? Or a Pilates class, right? You know what I'm saying?
I have to point out that we're so interesting, all of us, that we've got 3 minutes left.
Oh no! It's a party, you guys. I love it.
Yes.
Yeah, I will stop talking. So
All right. Does anyone have a quick question they want to get addressed or discuss?
I just want to quickly say thank you. You're my people, and I'm so happy to be with you.
We're happy you're with us. That's fantastic.
You're my people too. You guys.
Yeah, I want to echo that. I really, like you say, you guys are so dialogue specific and stay on the dialogue. And it's really, if you just listen to the words and do what they're telling you to do, it makes all the difference. Because sometimes some people will try to freestyle a little bit, and they can add extra, which is good. But really, if you just do what you're told, you're going to do the posture correct.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Yes.
Really that simple.
Yeah. Sarah often says, take the actions, the results take care of themselves. I think that's such a pure, basic awareness. Yeah.
I did I wanted to see if there's no questions. There's one. We did have one question online, and I could give it a short answer to it. Just, because she's asked a couple of questions in the past. It's Katie from I think Finland. I think she asked about Adamat and Dress, the spine twist pose. About very often the students are basically doing their own thing and not listening and putting their arms everywhere and in a mess. And the question is she has about listening and hearing and understanding. How do I tackle this challenge? And honestly, I would say to her, just an experience I had out of one of my classes just the other day, because we, as a teaching body, had decided to look at spine twist as a group and review the dialogue and review the posture. That sometimes you just have to stop the entire class dead at the beginning. Like, they're setting up, they've bent the knee, and one of them's sitting on their heel. Like, just stop it right there. Get them to bring the heel out of the way so they can sit up straight, spine perpendicular. Even if everybody's impatient to get to the next step, maybe insisting, and then pick a specific student who's not doing it right and focus on them whilst you hold the rest of the class. I did it the other day, yesterday, I think it was, or the day before. And I was amazed. Like, at first there was this restlessness where everybody wanted to rush ahead. And when they eventually realized I wasn't budging, I was going to focus on this first step. A lot of them were sitting up much more straight after it than before. You wouldn't do that every class, but every now and again, reining in the students and getting them just to go back to step number one and try to get that correct. It can help. That would be what I would offer, Katie.
Yeah, right. She's going to listen to this. So yeah. And Matt and Sarah, what we did too, you guys, is again, the comprehension of understanding, the posture itself and the setup and why it's done the way it's done. The more you understand that, the better your delivery, and the better then the students are going to listen to what you're saying too, right? So absolutely.
And specifically in this spine twist, one of the revelations for me, when I first started teaching this yoga, I thought that the heel was meant to touch the hip. And so that's how I taught it for ages. But that's not what the dialogue says. The dialogue says hip touching the left heel. Well, when you make it about the hip touching the heel versus the heel touching the hip, suddenly you realize it's a completely different posture. A completely different setup. And suddenly you realize the goal is to get the hips down on the ground and to be able to sit up, and the heel shouldn't be in the way. That's why in some of the old recordings you'll say, bring the heel out at least 3 inches. It needs to be out further than you think. Anyway, so that's for Katie and anybody else.
We've run over. Oh my goodness. Thank you. It was so cool. That was so
Yeah,
cool.
guys,
Yes,
thank you
for
so
the
much.
quality of
You've
discussion and
this,
engagement.
yeah.
And Jodie, you look beatific and glowing there. It's like,
Yoga.
Always.
Taylor, it's lovely to see you.
Group.
All you guys. Thanks for joining us
Thank
from
you.
afar too, ladies. Yep. Yep.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot.